All right, welcome everybody. So this is going to be part 2 of lesson 1.2. So please make sure that you guys follow along. One of the big key things is making sure you guys actually did this part before you watch this video. And because this is page 2, I told you guys this is the guided practice. And in class, this is where you attempt it yourself and I walk around and see your work. Or depending on how the structure is of this, making sure that you guys can actually do it. The big thing I will always push you guys to do is to show me your work. The main reason is that if you get it wrong, I don't see any work, how am I as a teacher supposed to instruct you on what you're doing wrong? The same principle and philosophy is going to happen the first time you get your job. Over the spring, if you're an essential worker in high school and you went into a workforce area, like with the juniors and seniors, I had a lot this year that did, even my own son and daughter, they were all employed. You have to show a process of how to do something to get to the end product, right? Whether my daughter, when she makes coffee at Starbucks, she has a certain process she has to go through to show the end result. You guys have to show me that process. If you don't, then how do I know where you make the mistake? Okay, so please make sure you do that. So first thing is PEMDAS, right? Parentheses first. That's a 4. Then it's times 5 because there's a multiplication sign there. This would be 4 divided by 2 plus. You just drop that down. Now you solve these respectively speaking, right? 4 divided by 2 is 2 plus, and then you multiply that out and you end up with 22, right? Make sure you do this in the right order because once again, like I said, it's not 2 plus 5 times 4. That's a completely different answer, right? So make sure you do PEMDAS correctly. All right, so first thing in the next one, we talked about going within the parentheses. So this is 5, the big bracket, 83 minus, solve within the parentheses, 7. 8 minus 1 is 7. Now it's still squared. And then you have another bracket here. So this is going to be 5 and 83 minus 49 because that is what 7 squared is. Now, once again, if you don't know what 7 squared is, that's fine. Get a calculator, put in 7 times 7 or 7 squared, figure out what 49 is. I'll be quite honest with you. I don't know off the top of my head what 83 minus 49 is. Can I write the math out on the sidebar and do it? Yes. Could I figure it out? Sure. Can it come like this? No. I have it written down, okay? Just so you guys understand, especially for this next piece. So it's 5 times, and it's going to be 34 because that's what 83 minus 49 is. And then put that in the calculator, or you can do the long multiplication, right? So you go like this, and you'd figure out that would be 0, that's a 2, and the answer comes out to be 170. All right, same thing over here, right? PEMDAS, parentheses, exponents. There are no parentheses, there is an exponent. So this would be 8 plus 9. Whoops, that's not 9. I almost did that. Don't do what I just did right there. It's not 3 times 3. It's how many 3's are there? Okay, it's 3 times 3 times 3, which is actually 27. A lot of you are, I know, are going to do that, what I just did right there. And so I'm glad kind of that I mess up. But I just, as a teacher, I have to catch myself to make sure I don't give you guys wrong information. All right, 8 over 27 is in fact 35. 12 minus 7 is in fact 5. And so the answer comes out to be on this one, 7. All right, next. Now we have to understand how to evaluate an algebraic expression. All right, to evaluate, and this is where it's going to get kind of tricky for you. We're going to be doing this a lot this year, okay? I'm going to tell you f of x, and I'm going to tell you to plug in a number for that value. I'm going to tell you to plug in a number for x and solve, a number for y and solve. We're going to create equations. We're going to do all sorts of crazy stuff. But what I need to make sure you guys can do is understand the basics of what we're doing, which is evaluating by plugging stuff in, okay? So what I mean by that is when it says, here's my equation right here. And when I say x equals 4, that means I'm going to take and put a 4 in right there. So how I want you guys to originally write this out would be 3, and then there's going to be a blank spot squared, right? Because we don't know what that number is. It's a number plus, and then it's going to be a bracket 2, right? But within this bracket, there is, and I'll put it in different color, there is another number. We don't know what that is. Plus another number to the third power, and then you would close the bracket off just like that. So what this means though is now I want to make sure you guys understand. So where x equals 4. So instead of putting an x here, I put a 4. Y equals 5. So instead of a y, I put a 5. Instead of a z equals 3, instead of a z, I put a 3. Hopefully you guys understand that. We're just replacing the values. Okay, that's like when we later on we give an equation, we create an equation and then you plug in values to get the answer, right? So now we're going to solve this. Now it's going to be PEMDAS, parentheses first, and then exponents. We got to solve within, right? So what you have to do is on this one here, it's going to be 3 times 4 squared plus, and then it's going to be, now here's where I'll just keep this like this. Whoops. Sorry, I keep erasing it. It's going to be 2, right? And then it's going to be times 5. Now, what this is going to be plus, and this is going to be 3 to the power of 3, which is 27, because we learned from my mistake the last time we did this. Okay, and now you do the parentheses inside still, so this would be 3 times the power of 4 squared, and it's going to be plus 10 plus 27, so that's 37. All right, so now we have within here, we have our 37, right? So now we have to do the outside as well. So what this can be is this can be a really long order of operations if you take it all the way out. I'm only going to do one long one like this. I'm going to skip some steps as we go through. So this will be the only long one I got to show you because 4 squared would eventually be 16. Eventually you would multiply these together to make 48 plus 37, which does equal 85. Okay, next one. So we got a squared. A equals 2. So this is going to be 2 squared equals, oops, not equals, sorry. It's going to be 2 squared, right? And then it's times 3. And instead of b, it's going to be a 6, right? So you put in a 6 right here. All right? And then the next step is going to be plus 5 divided by c. We don't know what c is. Oh, yes, we do. It's 4, right? So here's our equation. Now you simply solve it. So inside the parentheses first, so you'd multiply 3 times 6 to get 18 plus 5, which ends up being 23, right? And then you have on the outside here times 2 squared is 4, and then over here it's divided by 4. So the cool thing is if you actually pull this out, if I do this order of operations, it would be 4 times 23, which is 92, divided by 4, which actually comes out to be 23 again. Because if you're timesing something by 4 and then you're dividing it by 4, guess what? You're actually getting rid of the 4, making it a 1. So it's just 23. All right, the last one here. D, so this is going to be 5 times 4 plus, and my bracket would be 6. Instead of F, I write 3, so it's going to be times, minus G, which is 12, and then you go from there. Right, so this is going to be 18 minus 12, which is 6, and that's a plus sign in front of it. I'm just dragging it all the way down. 5 times 4 is 20, so hopefully I'm not blocking this with my giant head. It is going to equal 26. Right? So what I want you guys to do now, not a negative, just a 26. So what I want you guys to do now is please work on these 3, right? So plug in the numbers into the letters and solve accordingly. All right, hopefully you guys have done this and got this going. So r squared is going to be 3 squared, and it's plus my bracket of g, which is 2. So it's 2 to the third minus 8 to the power of 5, right? So now I have a lot of exponents within here. We got to solve these. It shouldn't be that hard. Now, you can do exponents on the outside first, but I'd want you to solve inside. There is no harm in saying that's 9. 3 times 3 is 9, because eventually you're going to do the exponents. Just make sure if you're going to do that, ladies and gentlemen, you don't get confused, because 2 to the power of 3 is 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, minus 8 to the 5th power, right? And so you know here this is going to be 9 plus 0, 8 minus 8 to the 5th. But if you have 0 times 0 times 0 times 0, it's still going to be just 0. So your answer ends up being 9. All right, this one here, g squared. So we got t first. So 2 times t is going to be 11. And then it's going to be plus 3 times g, which is 2. And it's going to be divided by 4. All right, so same setup, okay? 2 times 11 is 22, plus, and that's 3 times 2 is 6, divided by 4. Now, there's still parentheses in here, So you want to make sure you solve this first. So that'd be 22 plus 6 is 28. That's divided by 4. It ends up being 7. All right, last but certainly not least, 3 times a, which is 8, times b, which is 4, plus c squared, right, which would be 16 squared. Now, definitely, and that's all divided by a, which would be 8. I definitely need a calculator for this one, okay, because I personally don't know what these numbers are, but if I were to go 3 times 8, that's 24 times 4 is 96, and then it's plus, and 16 squared, which would be 16 times 16 is 256, all divided by 8, you end up with 352 divided by 8, which comes out to be 44. That's a calculator one. So please make sure you guys use it when you need to, and you go from there. And now the final piece of the puzzle here is our essential problem. I want to make sure you guys can evaluate this. Try it on your own if you can at first, okay? And then I will help you solve the answer, and then double check your answer, right? So pause the video one last time if you want, and go from there. So this is going to be 6 times a, which is 2. All right, so this is going to be 6 times a, which is 2, minus b squared, which is 4 squared, right? And then it's all over 2, plus, and then it's going to be 4 over 2, and that is squared. So the challenge is going to be, where do you start? Well, take it one step at a time. Work on the left first, right? So let's work over here. So we have multiplication, exponents, all that good stuff, right? So we'll multiply this out, b12 minus, because that would be 4 squared, which is going to be 16, and that's divided by 2. So this side is going to be negative 4 divided by 2, or negative 2, right? So I'm going to drag this all the way down. So this is going to be 4. 4 divided by 2 is 2, but that's still squared, so that's going to be plus 4. So right here, this would be plus 4. So negative 2 plus 4 actually ends up being 2. All right, so there's a lot of stuff in there. Follow along, and if you have any trouble, please let me know. If you have questions, come see one of your teachers in class or see myself. Good luck. Do the homework. It's kind of on the simple and same subject matter. So review the notes if you have to. Work on Alex's homework, and you guys will do great.